Okay, Wednesday, December 28th, 2024. What should I title this? Harvard MBA predicts stock market crash. It's already kind of happening, right? We have 10 days in a row of the stock market down. I think I was reading the financial news yesterday, and something's like 9 days in a row. Hasn't happened for more than a decade. And so I'm going to make my prediction, and I'm going to talk about a little bit of my credentials for making that prediction. You know, I'm pretty much of a loner, so I'll just have to talk about myself. Last time the market really crashed, I was at this business school called Harvard Business School, which is across the street or across the Charles River from Harvard College. The business school has its own area, started by the bankers, I think, in the somewhere around 1910, 1914, somewhere around there. And I remember showing up there in 1987. We're all excited to go and get fantastic jobs and become masters of the universe, get really rich, have our limos and cars and travel, and be superstars. Well, we're got pretty big heads. We're at Harvard Business School, right? And then what happens in the fall of 1987? The stock market crashes. And I think it crashed like 550 points, which is more percentage-wise than the over 1,000 point crash today. I think it was 1,100 points. Need to make a video before it totally collapses, but I'm kind of getting a little close here. So I remember back then I was out playing soccer with my section mates, and I didn't find out about the crash till I got home. People were panicking, boom, boom, boom. And at Harvard, it's fun to go there because you're talking to some pretty smart people, and we had a great professor. And so the market crashed, and it went through a lot of people that trade, stop losses and things like that. So people had what's called margin calls. Back then, I think margin, you could buy stocks on, 80% margin. So if you wanted to buy, let's say, $100,000 worth of stocks, you could do it with 20 grand. It might have even been 10%, but I think it was 20% back there. So let's say you had $1 million portfolio. When it starts going down, the brokerage firms, they want their money. They don't want to lose out on their money. So once it goes down a certain amount, like let's say 20%, you have to sell or cover it or cover the loss. It's called covering your stock. And then there's options on that, covering your shorts. There's that movie called The Great Big Short. Bottom line is, David Mearshwam, our finance professor that first year, everybody was pretty glum when it crashed because, it's after a few days, Morgan Stanley and Booz Allen, all the big recruiters, they stopped having the fancy spreads because Wall Street was like kind of dead. People were pretty depressed all across the world, and especially at Harvard Business School because you're going to graduate and take over the world, right? Right. So I remember David Mearshwam in a finance class, and I loved the professors at Harvard. They were almost all just exceptional, funny, and smart. He says, and it's kind of this amphitheater type thing, and I'm sitting way at the time. I'm called a skydecker, and David Mearshwam says, "Okay, so why didn't the system melt down the day afterwards?" And nobody had any clue, except yours truly. Yeah. Brent J. Long. So I raised my hand, and you're under pressure at Harvard because you're around smart people and really rich people, and if you say something stupid, you'll get brutalized in the school newspaper, the Harvest News, which I was brutalized for being conservative one time. Anyway, so I raised my hand, and David Mearshwam, the professor, nobody dared answer the question, and I'm this guy says walks all the way up. He walks all the way up. Looks at me and he goes, "Oh, Mr. Long, so you know the answer." And I knew the answer. Nobody else had a clue, I guess. And he said, "Well," I said, "the Fed liquefied the system," which means that the Fed didn't say you have to have your margin calls, which means the banks didn't collapse, which means it all didn't end in the fall of 1987, which it would have been over. The crash would have happened. Shaking my phone there a little bit. I get stoked about this stuff. But the Federal Reserve has an unusual amount of influence on the economy. Ergo, today, the Dow's down 1,100 and interest rates went down a little bit. So what's going on? Well, it's been insanity. You know, to lend money to the U.S. government for 30 years at 4 or 5% is effing insanity. But this insanity's been going on for a little while. So a guy like me, you just got to bag some rays and say, someday sanity will get in, and silver will stop being 27 or no, it's 29.24 on the spot market. Silver, and silver's more rare than gold, BTW. So everything crashes, but when things crash, people have to cover. So they're selling this stock, and they could be selling some pharmaceuticals, Obvo. And I haven't read about all the details, but the market 3.5% down on NASDAQ. I just perused it really quickly, kind of crashing. Will it continue to crash? I'll put my crazy reputation as Manoftruth on YouTube on the line. Yeah, things are out of sync. Billions and billions, trillions and trillions in debt, which is totally unpayable unless something very bizarre and strange happens. But usually what happens is the Federal Reserve or a central bank of country prints. And the United States Federal Reserve is printing. Look, I'm in the middle of Utah, so nobody knows, people can't hear this. That's why I'm not on Wall Street, because a lot of it's built on false promises, and people do use inside information, believe it or not. I remember when I was there, people thought, oh yeah, Latin America countries are corrupt. And I already knew in 87, we're corrupt too. The United States has corruption also. And now it's all coming home to roost. Justice is coming. Markets are crashing. Are they going to continue to crash? It depends. Yes, because I think the fair valuations are finally going to happen. And we're going to have a legal system where people, if they cheat, they're going to get busted. I'm from California, and there's politicians back there in California. I lived in San Francisco, taking care of my parents, and there's scuttlebutt that some of the politicians that are part of the House of Representatives might have gotten rich with inside information. I'm used to self-censoring myself, and I'm grateful to have been on YouTube for 17 years. People say, oh, all the patriots are off. Well, I consider myself a patriot. People are like, whoa, you asked for money. Yeah, I should be charging right now, probably 100,000 a day, because I'd say people trillions of dollars, well, billions, but they're not going to listen to somebody that thinks differently than them. They're going to go, yeah, we got to get into this crypto and that crypto, and they'll probably want to, hurt you, because of course Bitcoin's going to go down. Of course it's going to go down. Look what McAfee said about it like 6 years ago. He thinks people were retarded for investing it back then. Depends when you get out. Musical chairs, did you get out? Now, let's see if the Fed liquefies the system. Some people are like, oh, buy the dip, buy the whip. Probably like Jim Cramer from CNN, buy the dip. Okay, that's cool if you look like Lennon Kramer, but no, you don't buy this dip if you understand the true fundamentals and the history of the United States and the world. So, yeah, I had to make a video today because the markets are crashing, and it's because the United States hasn't been run in an honest way. Politically, financially, even with religion, and economically, okay? It's been a house of cards, and house of cards, somebody flicked that bottom card, somebody flicked that domino. And it's hard to, I've seen it for years. Like, well, oh yeah, years. Well, yeah, I have. I've got old videos that talk about it. Was I wrong about it not happening like right away? We're talking about 6,000 years of history and some big adjustments. So I don't feel bad that I didn't predict it to the day. But I'm going to say this, that I think justice is coming. And when we have a level playing field, silver will be worth a lot more than stock in a company that's supposed to make products that make you well, which maybe don't. I'm using a British understatement. So, we're going to go through a lot of changes, and people are going to freak out, and sad enough, people are going to commit suicide because their portfolios get decimated. But they should probably think, you know what? I've been a millionaire before Harvard, and then after Harvard, I was living in my car, and then your family hates you, and your church hates you. It's like, why didn't you use your MBA? Well, maybe I didn't want to be a master of the universe and use that white powder and get rich off of understanding how to utilize the inside information. Maybe that just wasn't me, and it's not. So, the crash will continue. This is the black swan event, and no, it's not going to recover. Do I know exactly how much it's going to crash or bounce around? The chickens have come home to roost. Yep, we got chickens here and roosters. Get close to the land. It's going to crash. Hang in there, folks. But you folks that have your mind set on the treasure of this world and your hearts are set on money, you're gonna be pretty bummed. And cryptos are gonna be cryptic. I'm not even gonna comment on that because I have close friends that are like heavily invested. And I have one close friend whose son committed suicide when his Bitcoin went down by about 50 million. I got another friend who forgot his key to get into his wallet, and he's got millions of dollars of Bitcoin, but he can't get back at it. So much is going on. I think it's good to have a few cans of pork and beans and some water, plenty of snow around here, and get close to God. Because in the end, I was watching a guy the other day on YouTube, and in the end, you're just going to you can't take your money with you. All you take with you is what you've made of yourself in this life, your attributes, and your relationships. So if you were nice to some people on this earth and stopped a few fights and were nice to children and women, then it's probably going to go pretty good for you up there when you go. If you were mean to those people, especially the innocent, if you were mean to little children, as I say in my secret code language, it's going to be no bueno. Porque seguramente Dios vive y la justicia viene. I love God and I love Jesus Christ. And yeah, I say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. On this beautiful sunny day, which is probably going to bum out a few people. But as they say, it is what it is. Get ready for a rough ride as we adjust to a free and just economy in the coming years. Ciao for now.